Greetings, fellow detectives. Wizard Kitten here, bringing you a new build in my series, Building Nancy Drew in The Sims 4. Now today I am doing a build from Midnight in Salem, which we've kind of been joking on my channel is the game that shall not be named. Is it even canon? Is it even a Nancy Drew game? And yes, it technically is. I just wish it was so much better than it ends up being. That's no secret. I'm pretty open about that on this channel. However, when we did our live stream for Midnight in Salem on the channel just a little while ago, I just kept seeing so much potential in these builds and wishing that they were better. There's several locations in Midnight in Salem that just I wish had more exploration. I wish they had more character. I wish they looked better and were more full and interesting. And one of those locations is the Parry House in Midnight in Salem. Which, I mean, when you look at it, it's just a standard suburban house. There's really nothing special about it. And we really don't get that many suburban houses in the Nancy Drew world. I mean, we got Nancy's in Alibi and Ashes, her family home, but that still had so much more character than the Parry House did. Honestly, it was just kind of bleh, and I did not like it at all. So I decided to build what I think the Parry House should have looked like in Midnight in Salem. One of the things that I think was a missed opportunity with the Parry House is that this game is supposed to take place during Halloween, and it's supposed to be kind of a big deal that the game takes place during Halloween. Like, it's kind of supposed to be a central theme of the mystery, in that we are supposed to be learning about witches at the time when witches are probably at their most powerful. I mean, Halloween is considered that kind of holiday. All Hallows Eve, the lines between the spirit world and the human world are blurred, things like that. So I would imagine that witches would have more power during this time, and therefore in Midnight in Salem, Massachusetts, it would probably be like a pretty fun holiday, and people would like celebrate it a lot and be super into that kind of thing since it's such a big part of the history. I'm not positive about that. I don't know. I've never been to Salem, Massachusetts, but in my head, I wanted this house to have a lot more Halloween character and a lot more autumn character. I decided to start with this house because I have been in such a fall mood. Like, it usually happens around this time of summer. At the time of recording, it's the beginning of July, and this is usually the time that I start to kind of get over summer a little bit. I am a huge autumn lover. Everything about autumn, like, just give me all of it. I want all of your autumn colors. I want all of your autumn foods, all of the autumn drinks, all of the autumn weather, all of the autumn ambiance. It might be basic of me, but it's true. I love autumn so much. And I feel like this house was lacking in autumn charm. So I decided to build it in Brindleton Bay in autumn, which is definitely one of my favorite worlds in The Sims 4. It's absolutely stunning, and I think it's at its most beautiful in autumn. So if you kind of can see around, there's a bunch of trees that have those beautiful rich like maroons and reds and burnt oranges and mustard yellows and kind of that like sagey type green. Those are all like my favorite colors. So I wanted to carry that into the house, and I wanted to bring it outside of the house as well and really fill it up, because again, the house itself just feels so empty. It feels so lacking in character. It needed a reboot. What I'm doing here is I'm kind of doing the exterior of the house and the interior of the house at the same time. What I've noticed as I've been doing these Nancy Drew builds is that the exteriors that we see of locations in the game very rarely match up perfectly with the interiors of the game. And you'll start to see that a little bit as I move on to the upper level of the Parry House. The floor plan does not make sense given what we see in the game and given like the sizing of the house. So I'm kind of putting things down to get a general idea of the scale of how big things need to be and where they need to be placed. And then I kind of move on to finish the outside, and then I really finesse the inside a little bit more, work on the floor plan a little bit more, and add in more locations that we don't get to see in the games. It's pretty common in a Nancy Drew game for us not to see like the interiors of bathrooms. It's actually not very common at all for us to see a kitchen, but we do get to see a full kitchen in this game, and I don't really have any qualms with the kitchen, so the kitchen remains relatively similar to what the Parry House looks like in the actual game in Midnight in Salem, but I add more things to interact with because it ends up being pretty bland in my opinion. The game also has these blue curtains, like these dark blue curtains, but those just weren't autumnal enough for me. I wanted these orange ones. And in the game, they also, in that little sitting area, that kind of little alcove with all the windows, they only have curtains on 3 of the 5 windows, which one of my lovely subscribers pointed out when we were doing the live stream. She pointed out that her dad was super annoyed with that, which I think is amazing. I love when even parents notice the flaws in Midnight in Salem and are like, wow, yeah, that's actually kind of bad. I love that. So I wanted to make sure that all of the windows had curtains. And so now what I'm working on is the floor plan of the second floor to make sure that I could fit everything in. And you're probably noticing here, there's no room on the front of the house to include May's bedroom. Because in the game, when you walk upstairs, there's this hallway that immediately goes straight forward, and then May's bedroom is supposed to be on the right-hand side of the stairs. And when I think about that now, it makes absolutely no sense because the door would literally just lead out onto the roof. And I'm fairly positive that May isn't a bat and she doesn't sleep on the roof in the middle of the night. I'm fairly positive. I mean, she's quirky, she's interesting. She could, in all reality, be a vampire and a bat and sleep on the roof, but I'm gonna go with that's probably not the case. So I finagled the floor plan a little bit to include more room space on the top level and on the bottom level as well, because it's just the bottom is too small for the number of bedrooms that we were supposed to have on the top. So I expanded the bottom level a little bit. I'm trying to work out the bathroom spaces here because I also needed to include a master bedroom for May and Tegan's parents. I needed to include a bedroom for Tegan. I needed to include May's room, and I needed to include the guest room that Nancy sleeps in. I ended up putting May's room in this little corner on the back side of the house, that one that I just put a light in on the left, and then I do the master bedroom over on this side. Tegan and May's rooms end up being pretty small. I kind of like it. They're very cozy. I was also struggling with where to put a master bathroom, and then I eventually figured out that it would just have to be an ensuite. The guest room also has an ensuite, and May and Tegan's bedrooms do not have an accessible bathroom on the second floor. So that ends up, I imagine that they would use the bathroom on the first floor because I do end up putting one there. So yeah, again, the floor plan for the game from the exterior and the interior do not match up perfectly. This is something that I'm learning more and more as I do these games, and that I am learning to finesse more and more as I do these recreations in The Sims 4. These windows I actually really liked for this build. They're from the Get Famous expansion pack, and I hardly ever use them. When I'm thinking of like suburban windows or kind of country farmhousey type windows, I usually end up using Seasons windows or Cats and Dogs. But this window randomly got added in with Get Famous, and it actually looks very similar to the ones that are used in the game. So I use them throughout the build. And here I'm just trying to figure out the sizing of the living room in the game. They have these built-in bookcases in kind of this grayish hue, so I end up using these ones from Cats and Dogs. I blend them together a little bit and they clip together a little bit, but I think they end up working out okay. And for the couch situation, in the game there is a sectional, and for whatever reason, sectionals are something that we still do not have in The Sims 4. And so I just made the executive decision to do 2 little love seats, put an end table in there. I use this set from the Tiny Living Stuff pack, which I absolutely adore. I love the colors, and I really wanted something with pillows because the couches that don't have pillows just look so like sad and lonely to me. I'm a pillow kind of person, and I wanted those pillows to be there, so that's why I ended up going with that set. It kind of conveys the same coloring too, so I thought that ended up working. I also added doors so that we can get out to this back patio. I added a little alcove on the bottom. That big room on the bottom is going to end up being an office space because, again, I felt like we needed more places to explore in the house, and I figured that office space could have some sneaky clues in there from Tegan. So that's kind of my idea with that. And now I think we're starting to move on to the outside where I just explode autumn and Halloween in as many places as I can without it looking garish. I guess I'm finishing up the floor plan a little bit here just to make sure I have everything, but that was what I had the most fun doing. Again, it's getting it's been super hot for a very long time now, and I'm just not into super hot weather. It gets old fairly quickly. It makes me sleepy, makes me kind of cranky. I don't like being sweaty. I would much rather cuddle up with a big warm blanket and be able to drink a hot coffee and a warm tea without feeling like I'm going to melt like the Wicked Witch of the West. So, witch reference, Midnight in Salem. Get it? There we go. Everything comes full circle. It's perfect. Okay, now we're working on the outside. So yeah, the outside of the Parry House in the game, in Midnight of Salem, is lame. It's just, there's a couple jack-o'-lanterns outside, which is like, ooh, look, Halloween, 4 jack-o'-lanterns. But in my mind, that's not enough. I mean, 4 jack-o'-lanterns is cute, sure. I'm glad that they at least did something, but I thought I could go farther with it. So I made sure to add in a lot more landscaping. The landscaping in the game is pretty sad. There's hardly anything, and what is there is this really just... these trees in this world in Brindleton Bay are of a higher graphics quality than the ones that are included in the game. If you're watching this video, I hope you knew that some roasting was going to be coming along, because that's kind of all I can do when I start talking about Midnight in Salem. But here we are. Here's the requisite roasting. So yeah, the plants in the game are very just flat and two-dimensional. They don't have any good shadowing to them, and I don't like that. So I decided to really, on the outside of the Parry House, kind of do my own thing with the landscaping. And what I end up doing is really filling it up with lots of kind of that dingy plant color, which ends up looking really cool in a fall type build. Again, this whole build is fall inspired. So if you also need a fall fix and you need a good suburban home for your game, this would be a good option. I end up using a lot of the the debug plants to do the landscaping. At first, I was kind of worried that the landscaping was still looking too flat, but once it gets all totally filled up, then I kind of start to like it more. I loved the idea of using this mailbox from Seasons because, again, I wanted this house to be exploding with Halloween and fall-inspired things, so there's lots of oranges, and this little mailbox was perfect. It's got the cute little spider on it and the little web. It's exactly a Halloween-inspired mailbox, which is just so much more fun than a regular mailbox. I'm adding in some dirt here and then trying to play with height with some of these bushes. Again, the flowers are kind of dingy looking because they're starting to get cold, they're starting to die a little bit, they're starting to go into their plant hibernation, or whatever plants do when it gets cold outside. And most of them end up being from the debug menu, which means they're free, which cuts down on the cost of landscaping, with the exception of the little low-lying flowers. And then I'm adding in some trees. Trees are always good for a fall build, and I love these like mustardy yellow type plants, trees that I think they're beech trees that come in The Sims 4, and they're super cheap. And I'm filling in the front of the house now with like flower boxes and planters and, things that you can look at and character for the actual build. This fun little wagon from the debug menu with all the sunflowers and stuff in it. I thought that was just so cute. Like, this is the thing. In basically all of the previous Nancy Drew games, even all the way back to Secrets Can Kill and Stay Tuned for Danger, one of the things I've always loved about the games is that they have these really beautiful and full sets. There's so many things to look at, so many things to explore. The fact that they are basically like drawn images that you can interact with has never bothered me because they are so stunningly beautiful. And Nancy is still able to interact with them in a really cool way, which I absolutely adore. And when they switched to this kind of style, all of that magic just kind of evaporated. If you can play this game on high graphics setting, which is difficult, you have to have a very powerful computer in order to play it on the high graphics setting, you might get some better looking plants and you might get a little bit more detail, but honestly, most people, if they can play this game at all, are gonna have to play it on low or medium graphics. If you can play on high graphics, great. But the fact that it's so not accessible was just super frustrating to me. So here you go. Here is what I wish it would have looked like on the outside. Beautiful, full. I had my sim here put up some Halloween lights. So there's purple and orange lights. There's yellow and orange around on the fences. The foundation has these fun little black, orange, and purple flags. So it's decorated. And there's still the requisite jack-o'-lanterns. We still have a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns, which is fantastic. Adds a lot of fun to the front of the build. But now we also have a bunch of lush landscaping, and it just looks so much prettier. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but it's really not hard to make a build that's better than the one in Midnight in Salem. Yes, shade. Yes, I'm throwing all the shade there. It's really not that difficult to make it look better. But I did put a lot of work into this one because I wanted to do it justice. In all honesty, I was kind of using the Parry House from the game that we actually got, and then imagining in my head what the Parry House could have been had we had the original system, had it been made. Back in the good old days when we had these beautiful, immersive, detailed, stunning environments that just feel full and shadowed and real. I was thinking of combining those styles and trying to do my very best to do this in the way that I wish it would have been executed. It's really the whole idea of this build. I'm adding in a couple more of these beautiful beech trees, and you'll continue to see a lot of landscaping in the backyard here. Landscaping is always something that I'm like a little bit insecure about. It's tricky to do well, but what I've found is using just a few key plants and kind of sticking to the same pattern over and over again helps a lot, and kind of letting the plants lay as they will rather than trying to fit them in a perfect line. I'm someone who appreciates a nicely manicured garden, but for my personal preference, I like when things look a little bit more overgrown and like nature has just kind of exploded itself wherever it will. I just like that idea a lot. So I tried to fill it in and make it look very busy and cluttered in the backyard. I made it smaller on purpose so that I would be able to fill in the space a little bit better and make it look like things have more connection to one another. When there's a bunch of empty space, things just feel so empty. I mean, it's not homey when there's a ton of empty space, which is why I prefer furnishing smaller builds or building smaller things in smaller spaces than doing really big ones. I do have a really big build coming for you guys very soon. You probably will get to see that next week. So I do enjoy those builds too because they're definitely a challenge. But every once in a while, I mean, little builds, that's where my heart lies. That's where I feel like I can really let my creativity shine without getting super stressed out. So in the backyard here, I'm just filling it in with a bunch of activity items that Sims can use. I put Apache, a scarecrow, in because, again, fall vibes, all the fall vibes. I put in a couple of bikes from the university pack so that your Sims can go biking. Hot tip, going with your Sims biking and going into first-person view around Brindleton Bay is stunning. Like, if you want to live vicariously through your Sims and you want to experience a nice fall day, even in the middle of summer, highly recommend going to Brindleton Bay in fall and riding along a bike with your Sims. It will immediately give you all those fantastic fall vibes. And what are fall vibes without pumpkins? I love pumpkins, so I put them everywhere. I decided that this corner was looking a little empty and a little sad, so I filled it in with some extra landscaping as well. That's the idea. That's the thing I was going for. Full immersive experience. And like, can you imagine coming out here and having a bonfire on a fall night and you can like wrap your hands around a delicious cup of like hot cocoa or pumpkin coffee or something like that? And how fun would it have been to like go out here and talk to one of the Parry sisters out here? Like, I would have much rather talked to them out in the backyard, chilling around a bonfire, telling spooky stories, and like communicating with them that way rather than standing in the entryway of the house with like what had to be free art. Because the art inside the house is, I'm gonna be honest, it's lame. It's like, how do I describe it? It looks like the art that you would get for free. Copyright. It's copyright-free art. That's what it looks like. Like art that artists just sell so that people can use it for free. That's literally what it looks like. And it makes me so sad because a lot of the wall art in previous games has been intricate and beautiful and creative and individual to each specific game. I mean, think about the fact that we literally had a portrait for generations of the Penvillin family. How cool is that? And generations of the Thornton family and Ghost of Thornton Hall. Like, and their parents are supposed to be world travelers. We kind of get the idea that May and Tegan's parents aren't home a whole lot, which is kind of tough for them, and that their parents just kind of run off to places around the world. Like they go during this game, they're literally on safari and they have no idea that their daughter is being accused of arson. So the fact that they have the lamest art kind of surprises me. Like honestly, wouldn't they have really cool collections from around the world? Wouldn't their house be more inspired by things like that? Apparently not. But I decided to kind of try and find a happy medium for that with the wall art. So I use these paintings from the gallery. This is also a hot tip. If you go to the Sims 4 gallery and you search for wall art, you can find a ton of paintings that people have uploaded to the gallery. They don't count as CC. It counts as usually base game content. And you can just get so many more pieces of wall art and a lot of like really modern minimalist wall art that we don't have in the game yet, which is super cool. I love that. And I think it works out really nicely because that's literally the only kind of wall art that we have in the game. But even these paintings that I find have a lot more character than the ones that we have in the game. There's literally one in the kitchen that just says like style with an exclamation point. Like, what? Who chose that? Like at least this one that I just placed is like abstract and surreal and super weird and like creative. Like if you're gonna have wall art in a game, at least make it interesting. Just don't just put it there to fill in the space. So frustrating. So it looks like we have finished the outside and now we're moving on to the inside. I worked for quite a while to make this seating area work. I end up being pretty happy with it. Like I'm mostly okay with how it looks. It juts out a little bit farther than I would have liked. But again, we're really limited for options in creative seating in The Sims 4. We really basically just have chairs, couches, love seats, and these kinds of like banquet type areas or a comfortable little sitting alcove, we don't have a ton of. So I tried to use these from the My First Pet stuff to kind of get that idea across, and I think it ends up working out okay. And I love that they have pillows all the way around them. It just ends up being really big and jutting out a little bit. I also changed the colors again. I wanted everything to have more warm tones to it. The house in the game kind of has a lot of cool tones to it, but if we're going for an autumnal style build, and the whole point of this mystery is that it's supposed to take place in October, I want to go full on with all of the fall colors. So we've got these delicious warm browns in here. I mean, doesn't this just make you want to eat like pancakes or something? Interesting. I wonder if they put pancakes in the game. Because those little brown pillows are just reminding me of the Johnny cakes. They do. There's pancakes in the game. But I also decorated this table with just like a little centerpiece with these beautiful fall leaves and these vases from the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack. And then little place settings I put around on the table as well. Again, the idea is that I don't mind the kitchen in the game, but there's nothing to interact with, and there's no decoration at all. There's a couple things on the windowsill. It's like, oh, look, they have soap. Cool. But I can't interact with the soap. That's no fun. I want to learn more about these characters through the things that we see as I put a thing of soap there. Hypocrite, wizard kitten. Okay, you need soap, but there's also can be more things on the kitchen counters than just soap. So I'm adding just a bunch of fun kitchen utensils. I put in these fun lights that kind of mimic the light that is above the table in the actual game, making it a little bit of a modern kind of take, a little bit more on the modern side while still also trying to maintain some of kind of the rustic industrial elements. And I'm basically just filling up the counters with as much clutter as I can. And I do eventually pull out some Halloween clutter, like you just saw that little haunted house decoration there. I put out a fruit bowl, there's a drinking thing, so I would imagine, like, how fun would it be if Nancy could go over to the fruit bowl and, like, grab an apple? Or go over to that drink station and, like, get herself a bubbling apple cider or something like that. Just more fall elements to the game. I have this coffee pot here, and then I put tea there as well, and tea kind of plays a role in the game, so I thought it would be more fun if, like, Nancy could actually make a tea. Just things that you could do in the kitchen, things that you can interact with. And I also put a trick-or-treating candy bowl. So, like, how fun would it be if Nancy could go over to the candy bowl and grab a piece of candy? It's these little things, like interacting with the environment in these little ways actually makes a huge difference. And I also put this, like, journal out and these magazines, so Nancy would have some things to snoop through. Midnight in Salem has no snooping. There's basically no exploration at all. There's hardly any looking for clues, hardly any exploration. And it's really sad because that's basically my favorite part of any mystery is the snooping. So I also put an envelope there. So there's literally 3 things that you can snoop through and multiple things that you can interact with in the kitchen now. You can go to the candy bowl, you can go to the fruit bowl, you can go make yourself a cup of tea. It would be really cool if we could, like, mix herbs to make our own tea. Like, how fun would that be? And then that would be kind of a little bit witchy, because that's the thing with Lauren's Tea Shop is that there's, like, you can make certain blends to ease your ailments. Like, that would be so fun. But no, we don't have that. This is why this is what it should be in my mind. And I imagine that, like, the journal and the magazine and the envelope were maybe Tegan's things. Because when we go upstairs, May's bedroom ends up being very cluttered and very busy and very mysterious. And Tegan's bedroom, in contrast, ends up being very simple and very clean, very, like, perfect. Which I think is kind of funny because May is the one who is, like, thought to be behind the arson and everything, and she's the one who's supposed to be, like, everyone thinks she's witchy. At least in the original design, that was kind of the idea. And I like the idea that May just is an open book, and everything you can see in her room just describes her and what she's doing. Tegan, on the other hand, is, like, hiding things. So I liked the idea of her room looking so perfect and so normal, but then as you explore the house more, you find out these little things about Tegan that's like, oh, that's actually kind of suspicious. That's interesting. I'm not really spoiling anything from the game for you guys because, honestly, there's the original plot that was supposed to be and the plot that we end up having is very different. That's what I wish the plot was. That's how I wish it had played out a little bit more, for sure. So now we're moving on to kind of the bathroom spaces. You saw I did a little laundry nook. In real life, I imagine that would be a closet laundry where you can just, like, pull open the closet doors and then the laundry would be sitting there, but that's not accessible in The Sims, so I decided to just make it a really teeny little room. And then the bathrooms are all pretty similar to each other. They have the same kind of plumbing materials in them and everything, and then I just make them all different colors and use different shower curtains from that bathtub and shower combo to make them more interesting. So now we're moving on to the living room. This is a space where May hangs out, and you can go talk to May. We can look at the fireplace pictures. We can look at something in the garbage can, and we can talk to May. And that's about it. So again, I wanted more things to interact with in the living room. I wanted more things to look at. I wanted it to be fuller and more interesting. So I imagined that all of these books in here have things that you can look at. It's this weird trend in some of the newer Nancy Drew games, and especially in this game, for Nancy to just be given books. Like, here's a book that you're going to need to solve the mystery, Nancy. I don't know why you need it, but here you go. I'm this random suspect giving you books. It's weird to me. So I imagined that Nancy could actually use this library and, you know, find some books, as you do when you're trying to solve a mystery and actually doing research. So that's what all of these books are for. And then I'm filling in the space again with just things to look at. I mean, who knows what could be in that basket? Maybe a key to a place, like May's room or something, like a place that we don't get to explore. There's probably keys in there, you know? We're supposed to find things and clues that allow us to interact with the environment more fully. Or that used to be what we're supposed to be able to do. So now I'm doing the corner end table. Again, this is a sectional in the game, but we don't have sectionals in The Sims 4, sadly. I wish we had sectionals, and I wish we had the ability to place pillows, because, as I mentioned earlier, I don't like couches without pillows. I feel like they look very empty. So it would be fun to be able to kind of customize our couches in that way. I don't think that's ever going to happen, though. You can do it with CC, but when I do these builds, I try to avoid using CC as much as possible. Again, on that table, I put a secret envelope. So what's in that letter? Who knows? We could explore and read it and get a clue. Shocking, right? It's like an unbelievable kind of idea that no one would ever think of, to do exploration and look for clues. And now I'm just kind of decorating the space with extra things to fill it in a little bit. I use these yellow curtains. I think the curtains in the game actually are yellow, which is good because that's kind of a fall-like color. And now I'm adding a couple of decorations that I figured maybe the parents would have gotten, like this vase maybe they got from somewhere, this little elephant statue maybe they got from a place where they traveled, where elephants are actually like indigenous and natural, stuff like that. Just filling in the space, that's the key. I had a lot of fun doing this. It was kind of therapeutic to build in this way, to imagine what I wish the games could have been and really bring that to life. It was a good way to let my creativity flow and to get a sense of peace with what could have been. In our dreams, we can experience what we wish we could experience in real life. Also, these paintings from the gallery are incredible. I have several rooms of these, and I use these just in my regular builds too. I sometimes forget about them, but there's so many options. You can literally download rooms by color, by style. You can get the ones that your Sims can paint. So rather than having to sit around and wait for your Sims to paint them all, you can just like download them from the gallery, and it's so much easier. Now we're working on this little landing up here, which again is different from the actual floor plan of the game because that floor plan doesn't make sense. So I'm just filling it in with a little bit of clutter to fill in the space, random trophy, little decorations. It's kind of tricky to get things to pop into certain slots because a lot of the end tables and everything only have 1 or 2 slots and they're equally spaced from one another. But I know very few people who like equally space their decorations on their furniture. It just doesn't look right. So yeah, there's a little bit of finagling that needs to be done. And I'm filling in this area with some more artwork, kind of these black and whites and blues. And I think now we're moving on to May's room. This is a room that almost inspired this build. But beyond the autumn factor, this room, it makes me so upset that we can't explore this room. They make it seem in the beginning of the game like maybe you'll get to explore May's room and look for clues in there, because when you go up there, it's like, I better not look in May's room or something. She'll need her privacy or something like that, which Nancy says all the time, but she usually doesn't mean. What it usually means is the suspect is here right now, and so I can't look in their room at this very moment. I have to wait until they leave or are gone, and then I can snoop through their stuff. That would have been so much more fun. But we don't get to do that in the game. They kind of tease you with it, and then no, you don't get to look into May's room. So I had fun imagining what May's room would actually be like. And again, I figured she has all these mystical decorations. I gave her the Grim pattern, like the Grim Reaper pattern for her bed and for the end table, and her decorations, like the one with the paw print and the all-seeing eye, like the third eye thing. She has these crystal candles on her nightstand. I love the idea of May being such an obvious suspect in this, because she just is real about like the kinds of things that she likes, which is so funny because most of us kind of, if we have what are considered, I guess, alternative interests or styles, a lot of people either like hide that, it's like a secret, or they basically just kind of show it to the world. And May's kind of someone who seems like she just shows it to the world and doesn't care what people think about her, but that is exactly why people suspect her of the arson. I mean, it was supposed to be the reason why they suspect her. It's different in the actual game, but I'm going with what I like for a storyline. So I filled her room up with lots of purples and blacks. It's very Mel Corbelis from Mornings at Waverly Academy. I also gave her a ton of art supplies because we learn in the games that May actually gets a scholarship to Waverly for art. So I wanted her to be super artsy. I wanted to put a lot of arty things in here. She's got these perfumes. She's got all of these nail polishes. Again, in like dark colors, purples, blacks, deep blues. She has skulls. She has this bat rug. And I just filled it to the brim with stuff. I gave her a guitar too, because you can never have too many activities in The Sims 4. I mean, Sims always need things to do. And I gave her this Grim Reaper chair, and I imagined that these sets all came plain. Like the end table, the chair, and the bed were just normal, and May kind of painted them to look like this Grim Reaper style. I wanted to add these crystals in here, but they were just too big. So I put a Yuki down. I put like this little void critter that looks like a ghost kind of thing. I have a secret journal, so if Nancy were to go in here, she could read May's journal and be like, ooh, secrets. We love secrets. We love clues. We love learning about characters by actually exploring and learning things about them rather than just being told everything about them or assuming things. And again, like this little journal over here, or maybe like a sketchbook. I love the idea of Nancy going in and like snooping through May's sketchbook and snooping through her journal and noticing all of these witchy things and like judging May, which basically everyone else does in the game. But the aspect of May's character, that aspect of her is like barely played up. I even gave her a potion, and I gave her these things from Realm of Magic. So this like little orb that actually has a familiar in it. So if the sim interacts with that, she can actually, I think, get a dragon, which is super cool. And then this cauldron, it's a fake cauldron. It's from the Spooky Day stuff. But like, I imagine that she would have just like a cauldron bubbling in her room purely for like the ambiance, like a lava lamp essentially. But Nancy would go in there and immediately be like, oh my gosh, May's a witch. And it would make the game so much more interesting because then there would actually be conflict, you know? And Nancy would actually have to learn things about people. In our dreams. This is what Midnight in Salem should have been, in my humble opinion. Obviously, others can have different opinions. You can absolutely disagree with me, and your opinions are still absolutely valid. But in my humble opinion, this is what I wish it was. So now we're moving on to Tegan's room, which again, I decided to make very clean, very crisp, very kind of girly, and just like a perfect little bedroom space. Like this is a Pinterest bedroom kind of thing. It has everything she needs, everything in her perfect little place, and from there's no secrets. I mean, she's got like these IKEA paintings that are just plain simple little leaves. She has a nice little hook for her robe. Her dressers are nicely arranged. She has these little plants. But this is not where Tegan would keep her secrets, in my opinion. If I was making the game the way I wanted it to have, she would like have these appearances, and then she would like have all of these dark secrets hidden away in very typical places. So like when we work on The Office a little bit, that's where I imagine she would hide some of her secrets, or in the museum. In her office there would actually be some secrets. And again, I'm not spoiling anything because that's not actually what happens in the game. This is just what I wish would happen. Yeah, a bunch of nice little decorations. This room is definitely brighter than some of the other spaces, but I still liked the muted color scheme. I thought it worked really nicely for Tegan's bedroom. And now we're moving on to the parents' bedroom. Whew, this is a long build. Like I'm honestly surprised how long this one took me. It ended up, I think, taking me 3.5 hours, and I did it basically in one setting because I was just feeling inspired by the autumn theme. And I think it took me so long because I was focusing so hard on trying to get it exactly how I wanted it in my brain. like really thinking through my choices in this one, which I tend to do, but I think I wanted to do it extra special in this, since I literally am titling this video what it should have looked like. I want it to be good. I don't want it to just be any kind of build. I want it to actually look good so that you guys maybe think this is what it should look like too. So yeah, this ends up being, I think, like a 45-minute video, and the whole build footage is sped way up. So kudos to those of you that are sticking around. This is a long video. So the parents, as I mentioned before, are basically away on safari and really don't have that much in their room right now, because I imagine that they packed pretty much everything that they needed. So there's just a couple things. I didn't clutter this room up very fully. I just put like some towels in here, and I put some folded up shirts, and they left some books on the nightstand, or like a little fake flower, things like that. But this room doesn't have a whole ton of character to it, just because the parents aren't here right now. This is probably where Frank and Joe slept, if I am thinking about it right, because Tegan says in the game at one point that all the bedrooms are taken. So there's May's room, there's Tegan's room, Nancy has the guest room, and then Frank and Joe show up, so they probably are sleeping in their parents' bedroom. So this is where Frank and Joe chill, in my mind. And again, just very simple. They're not home right now, so there's not a whole lot that would be going on in their bedroom. They probably tidied it up before they left, which is interesting. It's kind of an interesting way to get rid of their parents. It's kind of funny because the games do that a lot. They kind of just like hide the fact that parents exist in the games, but they actually give them a reason for being gone in this one. And they kind of allude to May and Tegan having a difficult childhood, and I wonder if part of that is that their parents really aren't around a whole lot. I use these art pieces from the fitness stuff pack, actually, and they basically show different locations around the world kind of thing, and if they're world travelers, if they're gone all the time, then they probably have these pictures of places that they've been, or like these framed photos of really historical places. So that's kind of the idea behind that. Now moving on to the master bathroom. Again, the bathrooms are pretty simple. There's not a whole lot to say about them. I use the exact same shower and sink and toilet in all of the bathrooms, and then I just change up the color scheme based on the shower curtain. So in this room, I decided to kind of go with a more, I guess, grown-up looking shower curtain. It's got just those black flowers on it, and then I decided to do black accents throughout the bathroom as well. And then kind of like grays for the wood tones. And now we're moving on to the guest room bathroom, which again has an ensuite, so lucky Nancy, she actually gets a bathroom. It's kind of fun. And for this one, I just did this really bright shower curtain. It's kind of funny how few shower bath combos we have in the games, because, I mean, shower bath combos I feel like are really common. Let me know in the comments if if it's not common in your area to have shower bath combos, but at least in the United States, I see them everywhere. Like, that's just kind of the thing. And if you don't have a shower bath combo, then you probably have like a really fancy walk-in shower. And very rarely have I seen like small shower stall and separate bathtub. I think that's kind of like going quote unquote out of style, even though that's probably still a thing that people have. But it's just, I don't see that quite as often as I see shower bath combos. And it's weird that we only have 2 in The Sims 4. I would like more of those, please. And options to make like walk-in showers. Although we can do that now that we got the university separate shower. You can use walls and windows and stuff to kind of make your own fancy showers. So for Nancy's room here, I kind of use the furniture that they have in the game to make this room, and then I kind of just do my own thing because I really don't like this room in the game. It is easily the most boring bedroom that Nancy has ever slept in. The hotel room in the Haunted Carousel is more interesting than this guest bedroom in Midnight in Salem, which is kind of funny because the Haunted Carousel hotel room is literally just like your standard hotel room, but it still has more character than this bedroom had in the games. And also, you might notice that the 2 windows have the same weather going on outside each one, so that's a plus too that we also don't have in Midnight in Salem. I'm sorry if the shade's getting annoying, but it has to happen. I can't not do it. I'm just being true to myself. So I noticed that in the game, this room in particular has a lot of dark wood tones, and that's what I made throughout the whole room, just a bunch of dark wood tones, but I actually cluttered it up a little bit. I have some extra pillows and blankets in this basket. There's the basket on the floor that has some extra blankets as well. I figured that would be important for guests to actually have like extra blankets and stuff. So yeah. That was the whole point for that guest bedroom. Guest bedrooms generally aren't that cluttered either, just because, I mean, only guests stay in there, so it's kind of just the basics. You got a couple decorations, you got your bed, you got your dresser, and then beyond that, not a whole lot. So now we're moving on to this office space. This could be, if you wanted to make it like another bedroom, it absolutely could be another bedroom. I just didn't think that there would be based on what we hear in the game about how many bedrooms that there are. But I filled in this bookshelf and put a little bit of extra storage in here, and then I add in a desk, and I imagine that this would be a place where either the parents would work from home or Tegan would work from home. It's unclear how old they're supposed to be. Apparently May is still in high school because she gets a scholarship to go to Waverly. So she's probably like 16, but it's unclear how much older Tegan is. She works at the museum. I don't know if she like has a degree, like if she has a history degree, or if she could just kind of like works there. I'm not positive, but I feel like she is at least old enough to work in the museum, so this room probably has some sneaky things for her. I add the filing cabinet specifically because I want Nancy to snoop in there. Like, imagine she found a key, and she's gonna go to the filing cabinet, and she's gonna find like some secret information about Tegan that she's been hiding very expertly while May just shows the world what she is. I like that dichotomy. I wish they'd actually done it in the game. That would have been fun, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess. I can only critique what has happened. But we are going to be moving on to the screenshots very soon. I hope that you guys enjoyed this build of what I wish Midnight in Salem's Parry House actually looked like. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button to let me know that you liked this video and would like to see more like it. That kind of engagement really helps the channel and helps us find new detectives, new fellow detectives to join our fun little community and family. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to get notifications whenever I post. I still do a lot of Nancy Drew and Sims content, live streams here and there. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, fellow detectives. I will see you soon.